Hey kids and Fiat owners, Peter von Panda here. I just want to do an update on my Fiat 500 at 3 years, 28,000 miles. And so, 28,000 miles is actually a little bit shy of where the average driver is. But after 3 years, what you'll notice is between my 2 and my 3rd year video, I've gone from 12,000-ish miles to 28,000 miles. And the main reason is because I moved offices to a new gig that's about a 40-mile commute either way, and so I put on most of the miles that I've had with this car in the last year. So I've actually learned quite a bit about this car in the last year, maybe even more so than I have since in the first 2 years that I originally got it. So first of all, before I talk about the car, I want to talk about the ownership experience. And one thing I want to call out is I bought this car from Ziegler Fiat in Schaumburg, Illinois, and I had my service work done there up to this point. Unfortunately, I made an appointment for service there twice, and both times I showed up and they didn't have my appointment in the records, and they didn't try to reschedule it or take my car at that point. And so after the second time, I decided that wouldn't be a third time. So I've been using Field's Fiat in Glenview, Illinois, and they have been absolutely fantastic. They've gone above and beyond, and I've noticed that one of the big differences is the car always comes back washed and cleaned inside and out after I pick up my car from service, and they actually threw in a free tire rotation the last time I was there too, so I've been super happy about them. Kudos to the auto group in Glenview, Illinois. Check them out at they're right on Patriot Avenue. So the first thing I want to throw out here is that I had the low and pop version, and I bought these side decals. These were aftermarket, so I don't know if the actual Fiat brand, when you buy this car in a sport, if you'll have this problem with the decals. But I've noticed that in the last year, and it might be hard to see here, I've noticed that there is a little bit of peeling and fraying around the edges of the decal. You can see there I've got some cracking. It's hard to see when you're standing away from it, but upon close inspection you can see the edges just getting a little rough along all the way around. Now, like I said, these are aftermarket decals. I think the kit was about $50-60 for the whole thing when I got it. So what it's giving me right now is an opportunity to probably peel these off and order a new set of decals, and I can probably do the same thing, but I think I might actually switch to that kind of off-center stripe that would go up the middle. So decals are cool. They kind of help break up what are kind of a chunky body style into a little more sleek line, so I'll probably do that. And the other general thing I'll throw out here is I really love this car. The pop has been great. I have no complaints. I've been averaging 36 miles to the gallon in mixed driving on my way to work, 40 miles each way. About 12 of those miles are residential, and the other 28 are highway, so 36 miles to the gallon on average over the past year has been actually quite good. But in general, overall, if I had to repurchase this car again, I probably would have gone to the Sport. I like the front and rear fascia, the side skirts, the rear spoiler, and particularly the alloy wheels. I've heard that the ride is a little stiffer in the Sport, and I probably could have liked that, and at the time I think it was about a $2,000 differential. I think definitely money worth spending if you're going to buy a 500. The third thing here that I want to call out is an issue that I ran into with the headrests across the board. I've got the keys in, you're hearing some beeping, and so you can see that the headrests look like they're these stylish circles front and back. One of the things I noticed is that when I was sitting in the driver's seat, these headrests stick out from the back of the seat, maybe a couple inches or 3 inches in total, and my head, the back of my head, was fitting right into this concave part of the headrest, and it actually wasn't. It was actually perfectly placed so that it didn't push my head forward, but what it did is that slight rubbing on this plastic was giving my hair static electricity and causing my hair to kind of stick up and get a little gnarly on the way to work. And the spacing is probably perfect, because if you did get rear-ended, your head isn't going to travel any distance because it's right there, but it's annoying. And so what I ended up having to do, after looking at a variety of options, including having the leather cover put on the headrest, is I just took my driver's side headrest up and out, and then I reversed it and slid it back in. One thing I was worried about is if this was a hard plastic piece on the back of the headrest, if my head did need to hit this because of an impact, would it be hitting hard plastic? And the nice thing is this back is pretty soft. I'm not going to say that this is DOT approved, but that extra couple inches that you get with the headrest back a little further makes a big difference from a driver's perspective. When I'm in the passenger side, I kind of lean back all the way and lounge a little bit, so it wasn't a problem. But on the driver's side, it was a big problem. This was kind of a quick and simple fix. I had a similar issue in the back seats. Now, you probably are not riding in the back seat of the Fiat 500 much, but I actually had the pleasure of doing that. And one of the things that you'll notice is that the back seats are much shorter, and so the headrests, when they're flipped forward, they actually not only, let me see if I can open this up and show you. Not only do they sit forward, but they're a completely different design and actually sit several inches, kind of hover in front of the seat. And they sit very low typically. And so when I got in the back seat here, they actually push kind of right between your shoulder blades, or a little lower on your torso, and you're kind of leaning, you're almost vertical, and it's a really uncomfortable position. If you were to ride in the back seat for any length of time, I would probably raise these up as high as you can, because there's not a lot of space here, and if you do get hit in the back, you're going to want to kind of have your head and your back flying to this, as opposed to hitting the glass on the rear gate. So this is not something I would recommend if you have to ride in this car for any length of time. But that being said, because most of the time I'm only in it because we're driving a third person or fourth person home for a few miles, I wanted to make that rear seat experience as comfortable as possible without having to reconfigure the car every bloody time. So all I did was I lifted both of these headrests up, reversed them, and slid them back in. Now what that means is the parcel shelf, which isn't very long, has to come out. Not a big deal. That means people could theoretically see into your car. But that parcel shelf is only, 7 or 8 inches maybe at the max length there, so you lose that. So you're going to have light be able to come into the trunk, and people are going to potentially see. But I've also solved that, not particularly for that reason, by having all of my windows tinted. So they are the reflective tint. They're about a 50% tint. I actually would have gone darker on the rear portion of the windows and the back window to only a 30% light penetration tint, so that they were darker all the way around, because the car does get hot in the sunlight. But the 50% tint was a nice compromise, and I was worrying about the local laws. So check your laws before you do any tinting, obviously. A couple things that I talked about when I took the car to the dealership are some of the repairs that were authorized by Fiat. One of the things is this front and this rear badge here, the front badge, were replaced on my most recent service visit for free. Apparently Fiat has had some problems with delamination, or the badge peeling or fading or something on both the front and the back, so they have authorized a repair and a replacement of both badges. Didn't cost me anything. The nice thing is, you notice that on the front I have that Fiat bra, which I reviewed in a different, from Le Bra, and they actually took that off and reinstalled the bra after they put the badge on. So that was kind of nice. So I haven't even checked it out. I did not have a problem with the delamination or the destruction of the badge personally. My car does get garaged in the evening, so in the winter and summer it's not sitting out in the elements, but it does sit out during the day. But people apparently had been complaining about that, so I checked that out. And when it was in for service, it had an oil change. That means that was my third oil change in about 26,000 miles. So roughly I'm getting about 9,000 miles in between oil changes. Pretty reasonable, I think. The other thing I'm going to show you here is, I'll jump in, in the last video I complained about the clock running slow, and it was running slow by 5 or 6 minutes a month, and it was getting kind of annoying. There is apparently a software update for that. They did used to replace the cluster in total, but not anymore. It's apparently a software update. I've noticed that when you do update the clock, it has seemed to be pretty accurate. If anything, it's maybe running about a minute slow a month, but that's well within my tolerance range, as opposed to being 5 to 10 minutes slow at the end of the month, even when I reset it to be 5 or 6 minutes fast. So that's a nice thing. The other thing I complained about was the Bluetooth microphone for the Blue and Me system is really poor pickup or has a lot of background noise at speed. And when I say at speed, anywhere above 40 miles an hour, definitely at 60, 70 miles an hour. People ask me if I'm driving with my windows down. I complained about that. They did replace the microphone. My subsequent tests from that have been that I think there's been a marginal improvement. I think one of the issues may be that the way this housing is, it's not optimized for sound pickup in the car, or the insulation on the roof to insulate from wind and road noise from outside the car may not be as good as it could be. Like I said, I also have a Chevy Cruze, and the hands-free system in that is so good that people don't even know that I'm on a hands-free system when I'm talking on that. So kind of a big difference there. It does work, it keeps me legal, but one of the things that I noticed is that it's it did get better with the service, but it's still not. It still has a lot of room for improvement. The other thing I've noticed, and it's not so bad here because I'm kind of parked in the shade, but this the button that you use to turn on your air conditioning and turn it off, that snowflake is what indicates whether AC is on or off. It's on right there. It's hard to see. I can kind of barely see that the light is on, and it especially if you're in bright light, it's nearly impossible because the color of the snowflake is white to begin with, and so if you've got the cabin bathed in sunlight, very, very difficult to see if the air conditioning is on or off. In retrospect, I probably would have liked them to put a blue LED so that it really contrasted with the dashboard. I don't know if that kind of would have fit in the overall theme of being a little more retro and a little more orange light across the board, but it very, very difficult to see. And I used to have an old BMW, and there was a snowflake on that air conditioning button, and they had a very kind of bright electric blue. It was very, very easy to tell, and actually the whole button lit up when the AC was on. Kind of a stark contrast, but it worked very well. So the other thing is, you may notice, is when you look over your shoulder, I'm gonna merge. Is there anyone there in my blind spot? It's hard to see. This B pillar is huge, and even if you kind of angle your head back to see through that rear quarter window, very difficult to tell if anyone's in your blind spot. So one thing I did is I just went to an AutoZone and got one of those little domed stick-on mirrors and put it onto my side mirror here. What I've noticed is that on the higher end versions of the Fiat, I think this edge, this outside edge of the mirror is curved to give you a little more peripheral view. This is a completely flat mirror here in the Pop. I don't know about the new models, but this has been actually a godsend. At a quick glance, you can see if someone's in your blind spot area. It's not perfect. It doesn't give you a very big image, but it certainly has saved my butt more than a couple times when I've looked there, and things look clear, and you're kind of about to give the signal, and you see that obviously there's a car right in that little domed corner mirror. I didn't put it on the other side because when you look over your shoulder on the other side, it's not as bad. You've got a better angle on that rear quarter window. The other thing I want to talk about is the volume adjustment. So a lot of cars adjust volumes for speed. It's very common in a convertible because the faster you go, the harder it is to hear. And so you do have speed volume by hitting this menu button. You can turn it on, off, low, and high. What I have found is that I used to use high because I did a lot of highway driving. What I do now is I keep it on low, and the reason I keep it on low, even though because of all that road noise, and because the Fiats don't have a little bit of pick up the road noise, the wind noise, and all that stuff, high is better. The high kicks on at far too low of a speed, and so once you hit 20 or 25, 30 miles an hour, it seems to jack the volume up to high, and while you do want it when you hit 50 or 60, I would have loved that high volume adjustment to come in at a higher speed instead of such a lower speed. So especially when you're traveling around the city, going from 0 to 30 to 0 to 40 and kind of back up and down that range, you get a lot of volume adjustment from the stereo, too much in my opinion. When it's on low, it's not quite as big of a differential, and so you don't notice it as much, and that's why I use that low speed. But it's one of those things where I had it on high for a long time, moved to low, and was much happier about that. The other thing here is, let me take a look at the cup holder. One of the cup so you've got your cup holders here, and you've got this little pocket where you can kind of stash some stuff. You know, I've got some lip balm and a name tag here for work when I need it. But what I've noticed is that if you put pens, if you put anything in here, this is a very hard plastic, and as these things move back and forth, they click and tap against the hard plastic. So what I did is I just took one of these little rubber sticky kind of you know, a gel type pads for that you put on your dashboard to hold your cell phone, and I just kind of folded one in half and shoved it in there, so when I put in stuff, it doesn't make a loud noise as it wobbles around, because nothing is kind of a perfect fit. I used to use pens in here, they just kind of made a lot of chatter. Now I don't do that, but I do put stuff in there, so that was a nice improvement. I wish that they had more of a rubber liner like they do kind of on the bottom of the cup holder here. And then, as I think I talked about this, a retractable, in my case, a lightning cable for an iPhone, but you can use a micro USB cable because or whatever, so that you can use this auxiliary port. And this is nice because you can plug it in and then just retract that sucker right back down there, and it's kind of out of the way. Let's see. The other thing is on automatic, and I know people are going to give me hell for not having a stick. You know, I have stick shift cars, and they're great, but this car is a commuter. It's not one that I'm looking to have a lot of fun in. It doesn't really have the power to do that. But when you're driving the sucker, as you know, as Fiat owners, that's drive. But everyone, even people I loaned this car out to, including my wife most recently, puts it here and wonders why the car is revving so high. So this is your kind of manual or auto stick mode. I think it's kind of superfluous in an automatic car anyway, but I would love to see an aftermarket I don't know, stainless steel piece that's milled to fit in here, so that people can't get locked out of doing that. They just kind of treat it like a Jaguar J shifter, kind of move it to the last position they can, and then end up revving the car for quite a while. So accidental manual mode is really common. You'll probably notice that, and when you loan out the car to people, that's kind of the only thing I tell them not to put it in there, because a lot of people do that and then not realize what's going on. In the rear, there are two cup holders in the rear. Now we're looking backwards. Two cup holders you can see here, one, two. I have put basically two mugs. And this is actually an ashtray from an AutoZone, so you can ash in there and close it. But because I don't carry passengers, the passenger seat itself is probably superfluous to me, and so I use them for additional storage. I use this big cup for change, which I probably need to empty and use, and I use these for pens, so that when you go to the ATM or something, you need to write something down, you've got pens. So I'm making use out of storage in these cup holders that would otherwise go completely unused, because I don't have any passengers, and if I do, we're on very, very short trips, because we're certainly not getting big gulps to spend a lot of time in this car. So that's it for now. My Fiat 500 after 3 years of experience. Great little car, lots of other little things to share, but I'll do specific videos about each of them. Peter Von Panda out.